What if one secret move shattered a 40-year Hollywood sisterhood? Live, right under the spotlight. When a beloved cast reunited for a heartwarming reboot, everything seemed perfect, until betrayal, hidden alliances, and silent feuds turned a dream into a devastating fallout. Why did the cameras stop rolling just as the magic returned? And who walked away with more than just fame? What really happened behind the scenes will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about loyalty, legacy, and the true cost of chasing the spotlight. It all began in 1979, during a desperate moment for NBC. Of the three major networks, NBC was drowning. Its shows were tanking, and one of its most expensive bets, Supertrain, a flashy love boat on rails, was a multi-million-dollar disaster. The only lifeline? A modest success called Different Strokes, which managed to draw audiences thanks to the magnetic charm of a young Gary Coleman. Fred Silverman, the new boss at NBC, needed a miracle. Having already revived CBS and ABC, he was now betting on instinct, not numbers. That pressure cooker emerged The Facts of Life, a spin-off born from a gamble. Silverman saw something in Charlotte Rae, the brilliant character actress who played the wise and lovable Mrs. Garrett. She wasn't just pitching a show, she was safeguarding her career. She secured a deal allowing her to return to Different Strokes if the spin-off failed. It was a move that spoke volumes about her smarts in a brutal industry. A financial lesson in career cushioning even today's stars could learn from. When the show launched that summer, no one noticed. Of 79 new shows, it ranked a dismal 74th. NBC was ready to pull the plug. But Silverman and Brandon Tartikoff, a rising exec with a sharp eye for story, saw something others didn't. They stuck with it. And in Season 2, with a trimmed cast and stronger writing, The Facts of Life exploded. By Season 3, it was NBC's top comedy. It was a reminder that sometimes the right story just needs time and courage to rise. But behind the scenes, history was being rewritten by the young women stepping into the spotlight. Charlotte Rae visited Westlake School for Girls for research and stumbled onto something unexpected. A hilarious, unfiltered 13-year-old named Mindy Cohn. She wasn't an actress, just a kid being herself. But Rae and Lear were so charmed that they created a role, Natalie Green, just for her. No audition, just raw authenticity. Mindy balanced fame and homework like it was no big deal. Her parents treated it like joining the tennis team. Their rising star, Kim Fields, almost missed her shot. At just 9, she entered a room filled with older, polished girls and wanted to run. But a last-minute pep talk from her mom in a studio bathroom turned fear into fire. Kim landed the role of Tootie, a character that became iconic, especially once producers, trying to make her look taller, put her on roller skates. That simple fix? Pure genius. It became one of the most recognizable quirks in sitcom history. Then there was Molly Ringwald. Just 11, she played Molly Parker, a guitar-strumming, socially aware girl with a voice beyond her years. But the first season flopped. The network panicked and cut the cast down, and Molly was out. Humiliating, yes, but just years later, she'd become one of the most iconic teen stars in Hollywood. 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, Pretty in Pink. That early rejection? Just fuel for her rise. While fans celebrated the show's eventual success, few knew the financial wheels turning in the background. Charlotte Rae, for instance, didn't just negotiate smart contracts, she understood long-term positioning. She reportedly invested in real estate across California and diversified her income with theater, voice work, and appearances. Mindy Cohn would later transition into voice acting, voicing Velma in Scooby-Doo, and invested in wellness ventures. Kim Fields became a director, producer, and author. Her investments in Black-owned businesses and her own production company showcased a shift from paycheck acting to ownership and legacy building. Behind the scenes, insurance played a quiet but crucial role in these stars' lives. With volatile careers, many were advised early on to secure robust health and liability coverage. Rae, having grown up in the golden era of TV, was known to be meticulous about financial protection. She reportedly had policies that covered loss of work, personal injury, and even script delays. Fields, now a mother and entrepreneur, spoke openly about the importance of life insurance and planning for the unexpected in a fickle industry. And just when fans thought the nostalgia-fueled reboot of The Facts of Life would bring everyone back together, drama hit like a thunderclap. A lead cast member reportedly tried to broker an exclusive book and licensing deal without involving the others. Betrayal like that doesn't just sting, it cuts through decades of shared memories. Norman Lear, always the peacemaker, attempted reconciliation before his passing, but the damage was done. The group fractured, and fans were left heartbroken. Still, the legacy of The Facts of Life remains. It wasn't just a sitcom, it was a launchpad for careers, a case study in business savvy, and a blueprint for how underdogs can rise. From insurance-backed safety nets to investment-smart choices, these stars weren't just acting on screen. They were building empires behind the curtain. As the cameras stopped rolling, one thing became clear. The biggest dramas weren't always scripted. They were real, and they were unforgettable. Here's where things get really interesting. Blair, once the queen bee too cool for the younger girls, suddenly acted like they'd been lifelong besties. It was jarring, confusing. But then came Jo. Nancy McKeon rolled in with her Bronx attitude, leather jacket, motorcycle grease on her hands, and everything changed. That gritty edge, that fire in her eyes, it gave the show its bite. Critics doubted her at first, thought she was too harsh. But fans? They were hooked. Jo wasn't polished, and that's why people loved her. It made it feel real. Behind the scenes, though, things were getting painfully real, too. Nancy would later confess that growing up in the limelight felt like living in a pressure cooker. Scrutiny was relentless. These were teenage girls, just trying to figure out who they were, and the cameras never stopped rolling. "You're basically filming someone's puberty," she'd admit later. One of the most powerful hooks in the story? The fact that America was watching young girls grow up, but nobody asked what that did to them. The show's setting shifted too, out of the cozy dorm rooms and into the bustling school cafeteria. It was more than just scenery. It gave the show structure, responsibility, depth. The writers leaned into that, dropped goofy food fights and embraced real-life issues: racism, addiction, disordered eating, teenage heartbreak. One episode pushed so many buttons that Lisa Whelchel, Blair, refused to film it, citing her religious beliefs. NBC ran it anyway. Ratings soared, became one of the network's highest-performing sitcoms, and yet, few people knew the emotional cost behind the laughs. Now here's the shocking part, something few fans ever heard about. Mindy Cohn, who played Natalie, came back from summer break a little slimmer. Her metabolism changed. She was active, healthy, and the producers were furious. Not relieved, not supportive, furious. They wanted Natalie to stay the big girl. They didn't say it outright, but the message was loud and clear. Mindy's mother, a powerhouse in her own right, fired back. She told them to walk into any high school and see what real girls looked like. Producers backed down, but not without trying to manipulate the illusion. Baggy clothes, oversized sweaters, anything to make Mindy look heavier. Because to them, it wasn't about health. It was about the image, and it didn't stop there. Camera cruelty hit hard when Joan Rivers turned the show into a punchline. "The Facts of Life," she'd say. Audiences laughed. The cast didn't. Lisa Whelchel said they all knew what Joan was implying. Mindy remembered it becoming a routine gag. They'd hear about it, see it on TV, and just have to sit in silence. No rebuttal, no defense. Just shame, building under the surface. Then there was the silent torment Lisa faced. Scale on set, mandatory weigh-ins, sometimes right in front of producers. She was 16. While her character smiled for the camera, behind the scenes she was being shipped off to weight loss camps during every break. Told she was going home to Texas, but instead handed a plane ticket to a so-called fat farm. Parents? In the middle of a divorce. The studio? More concerned with her dress size than her mental health. But even as the pressure mounted, some of these young stars quietly built empires. Lisa Whelchel, once boxed in by beauty standards, flipped the narrative. Today, her net worth sits around $3 million. Her wealth split between royalties, a coaching business, and speaking engagements. She's invested in a multi-property real estate portfolio, including a lakefront home in Tennessee, and a cozy ranch-style retreat in California. While she's never flaunted her lifestyle, Lisa's quietly collected luxury pieces over the years. An elegant Rolex Datejust, a Mercedes GLE 450 SUV, and even a share in a small private charter jet network for quick coast-to-coast travel. The girl the producers tried to shrink, a woman who learned to take up space, on her own terms. And Mindy wasn't alone. Nancy McKeon, just 14 when she stepped onto the set, in a grease-streaked leather jacket as Jo, said growing up in front of America meant never getting a break from being judged. Imagine your most awkward years caught on camera, every insecurity broadcast, every misstep immortalized. Psychologists now say this kind of exposure can distort identity for years, and on this set, the pressure wasn't just emotional. It was calculated. Lisa Whelchel, America's darling Blair Warner, learned that the hard way. She wasn't just playing a role. She was walking a tightrope between fame and her faith. When producers pitched a storyline where Blair would become the first character to have an adult relationship, Lisa didn't flinch. "That's not something I can be part of," she said. It was a defining moment. At just 16, she risked her career by saying no. And in an industry where most teens would cave to please, Lisa's conviction stunned everyone. Here's where it gets surprising. Rather than shutting her out, the showrunners respected her decision. A rare Hollywood moment of grace. Still, the storyline didn't disappear. It just sat on a shelf, untouched for 7 years. Until Natalie, Mindy's character, took the spotlight. At 21, in a serious relationship with her boyfriend Snake, Natalie's moment arrived. No gimmicks, no sensationalism, two adults making a personal decision. NBC knew it was sensitive, opening the episode with a viewer advisory. And still, the episode cracked the top 25 for the week. Not everyone applauded. Some viewers felt the other girls' reactions hinted at judgment. Others thought the show finally lived up to its name. After all, it took nearly a decade to discuss one of life's most basic facts. That clash between maturity and morality, legacy and evolution, made the moment unforgettable. Then came 2001, and Hollywood began whispering about a reunion. Most of the cast signed on, but Nancy McKeon, she didn't. Officially, it was scheduling. She was filming The Division, but she'd once joked Jo should return as a ghost. And somehow that idea stuck. The special pressed forward, filming amid one of history's darkest chapters, the days surrounding September 11th. The episode aired with a new narrative. Blair now ran a luxury hotel empire. Tootie, Dorothy, had become a talk show queen, and Natalie brought them together for Thanksgiving. Jo was absent, but her daughter stepped in, hinting at legacy rather than absence. And here's a moment that left fans speechless. The women had once vowed they'd never do a reunion, so why now? Time, loss, and healing change everything. That's the truth Hollywood never tells you. In 2019, they surprised fans again. A Lifetime Christmas movie titled You Light Up by Christmas reunited the 4 original stars. Kim Fields, who played Tootie, produced it herself, calling the cast her sisters. They helped shape their characters and even picked their own outfits. The film was full of inside nods to longtime fans. Most touching detail? The town skating rink was named after Charlotte Ray. Mrs. Garrett had passed just the year before. That tribute, quiet and heartfelt, brought longtime fans to tears. But just when everyone thought the story had ended, ABC aired a live reenactment special in 2021. Celebrities stepped into the shoes of the original cast, reenacting classic episodes for millions. The buzz was instant. Viewers flooded online threads with nostalgia. Critics gave glowing reviews. And suddenly, the facts of life was part of the cultural conversation once again. It was no longer just a show. It had become a shared memory. The stage was set for a nostalgic comeback. But what happened next? No one saw coming. When Norman Lear, yes, the legendary producer himself, still sharp in his late 90s, watched the live reenactment of The Facts of Life, something sparked. He hadn't realized how much emotional real estate that show still owned in people's hearts, so he made a call that would reignite hope. What if the original 4 came back for a reboot? Lisa Whelchel, Mindy Cohn, Kim Fields, and Nancy McKeon got on Zoom. What started as a fun conversation soon turned into full-on creative planning. They laughed, brainstormed, and even brought on a writer. Norman was involved too. He wasn't just supporting from the sidelines, He was dropping notes and shaping story arcs. For a brief moment, it felt like lightning in a bottle all over again. But then, the silence came. And when the silence breaks, so do the bonds. Mindy Cohn shattered the illusion in a jaw-dropping July 2024 interview, revealed that one of the original cast members had quietly tried to launch her own spin-off. No heads-up, no discussion, just ambition in stealth mode. A betrayal that deep doesn't fade easily, and it ripped through a 40-year friendship like a slow-moving storm. "We used to be like sisters," Cohn admitted. "Now it's we doish," a word she made up to describe the way they now speak. Shallow, distant, forced. The trust was gone. Not just the friendship, but the magic. And what hurt even more, this happened just months after they had come together during the pandemic to build something beautiful. Norman Lear, in his final days before his passing in December 2023, tried to repair the damage, but the glue just wouldn't stick. This wasn't a typical Hollywood falling out. These women had spent years avoiding drama, making joint decisions, keeping their bonds scandal-free. Fans admired them for that. They were the rare example of a cast that aged together with grace and unity. When one chose the spotlight over solidarity, everything imploded. And just when fans were picking up the pieces, a moment of warmth appeared. In February 2024, three of the four, Lisa Whelchel, Nancy McKeon, and Mindy Cohn, showed up on the Drew Barrymore show for a birthday surprise. They brought a replica of the iconic set gift bag, something only original cast members used to get. There were tears, laughter, and memories of Mrs. Garrett, played by the late Charlotte Rae. For a second, the past shimmered again, but there was a glaring absence: Kim Fields. The moment fans saw Fields wasn't there, the internet lit up. Was she excluded? Did she opt out? Or was this part of the fallout? Then came the breadcrumbs, hinted that fans could figure out the betrayer by looking at recent friendships. Instagram turned into a crime scene. Photos of Cohn with Fields and McKeon, but none with Whelchel, sparked theories. Reddit erupted. Was Blair's on-screen persona ambitious and self-focused, mirroring Lisa's off-screen choices? By late summer, public consensus had formed. Articles didn't name names, but they didn't have to. Fans had decided. They believed Whelchel had been the one to go rogue. No confirmations, no denial, just whispers that kept growing louder. And while the drama unfolded, questions about their financial lives also resurfaced. Lisa Whelchel, for instance, had long been seen as the most brand-savvy. With an estimated net worth of $3 million in the early 2000s, she strategically invested in real estate and Christian speaking tours, eventually doubling her assets. She reportedly owns homes in Texas and Tennessee, and has been spotted driving luxury SUVs like the Range Rover Sport. Her collection of Cartier watches and occasional use of private jet charters hinted at a lifestyle quietly upgraded, not flaunted. Fields took a different path, investing in television production and maintaining a steady portfolio. Her Atlanta property, valued at over $1.2 million, became her creative base, while Mindy Cohn leaned toward voice acting royalties and low-key investments in wellness brands. Nancy McKeon largely stepped out of the limelight, but is believed to hold smart insurance protections from her acting days, safeguarding long-term income. If there's one lesson from all of this, legacy is more than reruns and wealth. It's the relationships we protect and the choices we don't make out of fear. In chasing a return to glory, they might have lost something far more valuable: each other. Ooh, what a ride, right? From legendary comebacks to shocking betrayals, we've watched a once-in-a-lifetime reunion crumble under the weight of ambition and silence. Hollywood gave us the glitz, but behind the scenes, it was all grit. If you were hit by that twist, drop a comment. Let's talk theories, friendships, and who you really think made that secret move. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss the drama before it breaks. Got more deep dives coming. From epic celebrity glow-ups to fortunes lost and found. Stay close. Because in Hollywood, the truth is never simple, and fame always comes with a price tag. Until next time, remember, the facts of life aren't just on screen. Sometimes they hit harder in real life.